Get out. This is my son's house. Margaret shouted, her face red with anger as two locksmiths changed the front door locks. I stood in the driveway, dirt on my knees from gardening, too shocked to speak. My mother-in-law had always disliked me, but this was a new low. She had waited until my husband James was deployed overseas to lock me out. You have 1 hour to pack, she said coldly, tapping her fancy watch. Anything left behind belongs to my son. I'm Alex, 32 years old, and I never thought I'd be thrown out of my own home by my husband's mother. She had spent years trying to convince James that I wasn't good enough for him. One of the locksmiths gave me a sympathetic look. Take your time, he whispered, but Margaret shot him a glare, shutting him up. I stayed calm as I walked inside. Margaret followed, making sure I didn't take anything she considered valuable. I told James he should have made you sign a prenup, she sneered. But at least the house is only in his name. I didn't respond. She had no idea about the legal papers James and his father had arranged before his father passed away. You were never right for him, she continued. A small-town teacher. James needs someone with status. I picked up a wedding photo of James and me, laughing on our special day. Margaret snatched it from my hands. Family photos stay, she said smugly. You're not family anymore. I just smiled to myself. The real wedding album was hidden where she'd never find it. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from James. Morning, beautiful. Signal's bad here, but I love you. Hope Mom's keeping you company. Oh, she was keeping me company, all right. Margaret smirked. Don't contact him. I already told him you've been bringing men over, letting the house go to ruin. He won't believe a word you say. I raised an eyebrow but said nothing. James knew me too well to fall for her lies. Besides, he'd notice if I missed our weekly video call. Margaret, thinking she had won, went on. I already called a realtor. The house is too big for one person. James can buy something more suitable when he's back, with someone better suited for him. I finished packing, taking a final look around the bedroom James and I had shared for 8 years. Margaret didn't notice me running my hand along the back of the dresser, checking that something important was still safely hidden. I called you a taxi, she said, practically shoving me out. Your car doesn't belong in this neighborhood. As the locksmith finished, I saw him slip some paperwork into his pocket, probably proof of who had authorized the lock change. That might be useful later. As my taxi arrived, Margaret stood by the door, talking loudly on the phone. Yes, the house will be available for viewing next week. The previous occupant is finally gone. I put my suitcase in the taxi and turned to her with a calm smile. Good luck with the sale, Margaret. She frowned, expecting me to cry, beg, or cause a scene. Instead, I waved and left. She had no idea I was ready for this. I had prepared for years, keeping records, hiding important documents, and planning for the day she'd try something like this. And most importantly, she had no clue about the promise James's father had made before he died. The taxi driver glanced at me. You okay? I smiled. I'm fine, just handling some family business. As we drove off, I saw Margaret removing my wind chimes, trying to erase every trace of me. Let her try. She was about to learn the hard way that she hadn't won at all. I had 1 week before she put the house on the market, 1 week to turn the tables. That was more than enough time. Kate's guest room became my safe space as I put my plan into action. 3 days after Margaret locked me out, I sat at the kitchen table, sorting through a stack of documents I had saved over the years. I still can't believe she actually changed the locks, Kate said, handing me a cup of coffee. Doesn't she know that's illegal? I smiled. Margaret never worries about what's legal. She only cares about what she can get away with. And James still doesn't know. Our video call is tomorrow, I said. I wanted to have all the proof ready first. Kate picked up one of the papers and gasped. Is this what I think it is? I nodded. James's father's final gift to us. He knew exactly what Margaret was like. The day before he passed away, he called us into his study while she was at yoga. He had everything planned. I remembered that day clearly. Robert, James's father, sitting behind his desk, weak but determined. He had handed us a folder filled with legal documents, including the house deed. My wife means well, he had said, but she always tries to control James. This house should belong to you both, not be something she can use against you. We had signed the papers then and there. The house was transferred to both James and me, with a rule that it couldn't be sold without both of our signatures. Margaret had been too busy with her social events to notice. I glanced at my phone and opened an email from the locksmith. As expected, he had sent proof that Margaret had changed the locks illegally. "What about the realtor?" Kate asked. "I called her this morning," I said. Once I showed her the house documents, she was very helpful. Margaret has a reputation, it seems. The realtor had been shocked to learn Margaret tried to sell the house without proper paperwork. She immediately pulled out of the deal but sent me copies of all her messages with Margaret first. Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Sullivan. "That utility guy just left. I told him everything, and he took lots of notes." I had asked Mrs. Sullivan to keep an eye on the house. Margaret needed to switch the utilities into her name, which meant the fraud department would now be involved. Kate shook her head in amazement. "You thought of everything." "I had 8 years to prepare," I said. "Margaret's been trying to get rid of me since I married James. I learned to document everything." Then my phone rang. It was the family lawyer who had helped with the house transfer. "Alex, we have a problem. Margaret just tried to file paperwork saying James gave her power of attorney before his deployment." I smirked. "Let me guess. The signature doesn't match the one on our house papers?" "Not even close," he said. "She's getting desperate. Should I contact the DA's office?" "Not yet," I replied. "Let's see what she tries next." After hanging up, I turned to Kate. She's panicking. Losing the realtor must have shaken her. What's next? I checked my calendar. Video call with James tomorrow at 10 a.m. Once he knows what's going on, we move to phase 2. The rest of the day, I prepared. I gathered statements from neighbors, emails from the realtor, and the fraud report from the utility company. Everything was neatly organized, ready to present. That evening, Margaret made her next move. My phone buzzed with her messages. "You're making a fool of yourself. James never loved you. He was just too nice to say it. If you leave now, I won't press charges for the things you stole. I know what you're doing. It won't work." I forwarded each message to my lawyer without replying. Margaret was realizing she couldn't sell the house and was grasping at straws. Later that night, I sat on Kate's porch, looking at the stars and thinking about James. We had been through so much together. Deployments, family drama, loss. Margaret had never understood our bond. My phone buzzed with an alert from our home security system. Margaret was at the house, carrying out boxes. I pulled up the camera feed and saw she was taking photo albums and family mementos. "Should we stop her?" Kate asked. I shook my head. "Those are just copies. The real ones are in our safety deposit box. Let her think she's erasing me. It'll make tomorrow more interesting." I watched Margaret struggle with the boxes, a flicker of pity crossing my mind. She had spent her life trying to control everything. Now she was losing it all. Tomorrow's call with James would change everything. Margaret thought she had won. She had no idea her perfect plan was about to fall apart. At exactly 1,000 hours, James's face appeared on my laptop screen. Despite the grainy video quality, I could see his concerned expression immediately. "Alex, what's going on? Mom's been sending me strange messages about you abandoning the house and stealing things." I tried calling her, but she keeps making excuses. I took a deep breath. "Your mother changed the locks while I was gardening. She kicked me out 4 days ago." His face darkened. "She did what?" Calmly, I shared my screen and began showing him the evidence. The locksmith's documentation, security camera footage, Margaret's threatening texts, and the realtor's correspondence about the attempted illegal sale. "She told me you've been bringing men to the house," James said, his voice tight with anger. "I knew she was lying. You'd never do that. But I never thought she'd go this far." "There's more," I said, pulling up the power of attorney documents. "She tried to forge your signature." James ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. "I'm requesting emergency leave. This has to stop." "Actually," I said, allowing myself a small smile, "I have everything under control. Remember what your father did before he passed away." Understanding dawned on his face. "The property transfer. Mom never knew about that, did she?" "No, she didn't. And right now, she's at the house removing our photos and mementos, thinking she's destroying our only copies." James shook his head. "All these years, Dad knew exactly what she might do. That's why he insisted on the transfer. He loved you," I said softly. "He wanted to protect us from exactly this situation." A notification popped up on my phone. The security system showing Margaret arriving at the house with more boxes. Ready to end this? I asked James. More than ready. 20 minutes later, I pulled into our driveway, Kate beside me for moral support and as a witness. Margaret's expensive SUV was parked haphazardly across the front lawn, her frustration evident even in her parking. I walked up to the front door and rang the doorbell, Kate recording everything on her phone. Margaret yanked the door open, her perfectly coiffed hair now disheveled. "How dare you come back here? I'll call the police." "Actually," I said, holding up my phone, "James is on the line. He'd like to talk to you." Her face paled as I switched to video chat. James's face appeared, his military bearing in full effect. "Mother," he said, his voice stern. "Stop what you're doing and let my wife into our home." "James, darling," Margaret stammered, "I was just trying to protect your interests while you're away. She's not good enough for you, she never was. The house belongs to Alex and me," James cut her off. "Dad made sure of that before he died. Every document you tried to forge, every lie you told, it's all documented. You have exactly 1 hour to leave before we file charges." Margaret's composure cracked completely. "Your father would never go behind my back. He knew how important family legacy is." "He did," I said quietly. "That's exactly why he did it." I held up the original property deed, watching as Margaret's eyes widened in recognition of her late husband's signature. All her careful plans, her manipulations, her attempts to erase me, none of it mattered now. "I'll expect your keys on the front step," I said firmly. "All copies, and Margaret? The photos and mementos you've been removing? Those were all duplicates. We learned long ago not to leave anything irreplaceable where you could find it." An hour later, I stood in our living room, watching through the window as Margaret's SUV disappeared down the street. The house felt different somehow, lighter, as if a shadow had finally been lifted. "I've arranged for military police to check on you regularly until I'm home," James said through the video chat. 3 more months, then we'll deal with everything else together." I touched the screen, wishing I could hold his hand. "I miss you." "I miss you too. And Alex, I'm so proud of how you handled this. Dad would be too." After ending the call, I walked through the house, restoring our photos to their rightful places. In his father's old study, I found one last surprise, a letter from Robert dated just before his death. "Dear Alex," it read. "If you're reading this, Margaret finally showed her true colors. I'm sorry for all the years of difficulty she caused you. But I knew you were strong enough to handle it, strong enough to protect the family James and you have built. She never understood that real family isn't about social status or control. It's about love, trust, and standing together against whatever comes. Take care of my son, and take care of yourself. You were always the daughter I wished for." I placed the letter in our family album, next to the real wedding photos and the property deed. Margaret had spent years trying to break us apart, never realizing she was only making us stronger. 3 months wasn't so long to wait. James would come home, and we would rebuild whatever Margaret had tried to destroy. But this time, there would be no more power plays, no more manipulation, no more trying to erase what we had built together. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about standing your ground and protecting what matters most.